In today's video, I'm going to take you through how I budget my monthly salary. I'm going to go into detail on the amount of money that I've got coming into my account every single month, and then how I split that money across my fixed costs, any savings and investments I do, any debt payoffs that I have to make, and also how much money I allocate for myself. I'll go through each area in detail, highlighting some of the key things that make up each area of my budget, what I'm spending money on, how much more money I've got to spend on that if I'm saving or paying off debt, and a few other things like that, so that by the end of this video you'll have a good understanding of exactly where my money goes, and hopefully be able to take some tips from this video on how to better budget for yourself. The budget spreadsheet that I'll pop up on the screen in a minute is the budget spreadsheet that I've put together and works well for me for how I like to budget. It might not be exactly how you like to budget or work perfectly for you, but hopefully there'll be some useful information in there that you can take for your budgeting spreadsheet or your budgeting tips, however you choose to budget at home. But without delaying any further, I'll put my budget spreadsheet up on the screen now and we'll start chatting through all of the different areas. Okay, so you've got the smaller version of me now, and on the screen is my budget spreadsheet. As I mentioned at the start, this is the spreadsheet that I use that really controls all of my finances, where my money goes, so that anytime really I can jump into this spreadsheet and I can work out where I am. For anyone that's not been here before or hasn't seen one of my budget videos, I do these videos once a month where I take you through, like I'm going to do today, exactly where my money comes from and where it goes in my finance world, in my finance system. And my spreadsheet, which as you can see is on the screen in front of you here, is made up of a few tabs, and in today's video we're really going to fixate on the first two tabs. So my budget overview, which is the tab that we're on here, and I'll just do 30 seconds on this tab in a bit, and then my monthly budget tracker, which is along the bottom there. That's the one that we're going to spend most of our time in on today's video, and that's got a full breakdown of all of my income and outgoings in there. There's a few other tabs that you can see on the bottom, so savings and investments, pots for my savings goals, and a retirement plan. I don't go into detail too much on those three tabs in this video. I do another monthly video series where I cover my savings and investments for the month and what I'm doing in that world, and those three tabs basically track all of that activity that I'm doing. So I do a separate video which will come out shortly after this video comes out, which will just go into detail on that. So if you're interested in following up on where my savings and investments are going, make sure you check out that video as well. I'll link a couple of ones that I've done previously down in the description, so you can kind of get up to speed with where my finances are in that world at the moment. But as I say, for today's video we're going to focus mainly on the budget overview tab and the monthly budget tracker tab. So here we are in the budget overview tab. This tab here gives a snapshot of my finance system, exactly where I'm at. Everything that's on all the other tabs reports into this tab, so it just gives me an overview of where I'm at. We've got the 6 kind of boxes at the top here, starting with monthly net total income, monthly bills, personal allowance, savings, investments, a couple of others there. Those 6 boxes you'll also see on the monthly budget tracker. That's where all the money that I've got coming in and out pulls into to give me an overall view. And then if you scroll down here, so I should point out whilst going through this that none of this is populated correctly at the moment, because we're going to go through and populate that shortly. So all of the stuff that you see in here you can effectively ignore. We will come back to this tab at the end of the video and I'll show you how it's all updated and how it projects my finances for the month. But here I have a pie chart which is all one colour at the moment because I haven't allocated any of my income. But when we allocate income to different areas, this pie chart will get split up and it will show where my money's going. And then I've also got a debt tracker over here which shows how much of my debt I've paid off and how much I've got left to pay off, and 2 boxes below that relate exactly to that, the outstanding debt I've got and the debt I've already paid off. I've got a box there for my emergency fund, which sums up how much money I've got in my emergency fund, my pension investment totals, and then really a kind of vanity number at the bottom that I like to keep track of is what my net worth is as well overall. So that net worth number, excluding housing, it doesn't include housing, pulls together all of my finances from all of these different areas and just gives me a net total position. So if I had let's say I had £50,000 worth of debt. Thankfully I don't, but let's say I did. That number would be negative because I would have more debt than I have in my investment, savings, emergency fund total. So that's what that does. That's the budget overview tab. As I say, we're not going to spend too much more time on this tab now because we'll come back to it at the end of the video. So we're going to switch over screens now to my monthly budget tracker, which you have now on the screen here in front of you. And good news for those of you that are watching this video that have watched some of my budget videos before. Firstly, thank you very much for coming back and watching another one. Hopefully you found them useful so far. But secondly, I've also think I've done all the updates I need to make to this spreadsheet now for this to be available for purchase. So I'm going to put this up for sale, probably just for like a couple of quid, just for, obviously I've pumped lots of time into it, so I'm just going to pop it up for people to be able to buy. I'm curious to know whether this is something that people are interested in buying, and that there is an interest for. I've had a couple of people inquire already, so thank you to those people. But if it's something you're interested in buying, please do drop a comment down below, just so I can gauge what interest there is, because there's a couple of other spreadsheets that I'd like to pull together like this as well. So I'm just curious to know if there's actually demand there for sort of buying these types of spreadsheets and setups. So yeah, definitely let me know down in the comments. But without delaying any further and covering all of the top level stuff at the start, let's get stuck into my monthly budget. So as mentioned on the budget overview tab, we have these same 6 boxes that exist at the top here, which cover all of my finances. So you've got my monthly net total income, which relates to this first box that you see down here as well. So all of the income that I put in here, which we'll cover in a second, pulls through and gives me my monthly net total income that I've got coming in. The next box over is my monthly bills, so how much all of my different bills and payments that I've got going out relate to. That all populates into there. It's 0 at the moment because we haven't been through and populated. Debt payments, so any money that I'm paying towards any debts that I have. Monthly savings and investments down on the next row. Again, exactly what it says on the tin, any money that I'm putting into savings, whether that be for an emergency fund or putting into my stocks and shares ISA or putting into my pension, that all gets wrapped up in that monthly savings and investments tab. And then my monthly personal allowance number, so that's basically how much money I give myself to spend on whatever I want to spend it on. So that's effectively money that I isolate so I can spend on those things. And then the last box tells me how much money I've got left to allocate. So you can see at the moment that the monthly net total income and the left to allocate number are exactly the same. That's because we haven't allocated any of my income yet. We'll do that as we go, and you'll see this spreadsheet begin to update, and you'll see how it works. Again, obviously, if you've seen one of my videos before, you know how this works. So we'll also get into a bit of detail on some of my payments that will be changing or have changed since the last time I filmed one of these videos. So if we jump down to my monthly net total income, get stuck into it now. So this is how much money I've got coming in for the month of April. So as you can see in here, and again for anyone that has watched my videos before, significantly higher amount of income coming in this month than I've had previously, which is great. I'm going to break that down for you now as to why that is, because it's a bit of a one-off reason, and you can probably already see in here where that's coming from. But just starting at the top, my salary is my main form of income. That's the main money that I have coming in. So I have coming in monthly £3,131.44. So quick maths tells you that that is just over £50,000 a year that I'm earning to do my job. I work in marketing in London, so that's how much I've got coming in for my job. And then all of these other areas down here are effectively other sources of income or side hustles that I've got where I can earn other income coming in. So I've actually taken one out of here. I used to have Rover on here as an option. Me and my wife were on Rover, which was a pet sitting website to basically earn money to go and look after people's pets for them. We kind of decided that because of how much other stuff we've got going on, other side hustles we have, that one was probably the most disposable. So we've actually taken that one out of our system at the moment. So that one's I've taken that out and removed it. So we're not using that as a form of income at the moment. Fiverr is still a channel that I do plan on using, so I'm leaving it in here because at some point I will start up my Fiverr account, which is effectively providing freelance services to people, particularly things like copywriting, data entry, all of those types of things. That's what's being provided as a service on Fiverr. And then Airtasker, similar type of app, but that is more freelance services towards more manual labour style jobs. So I do a lot of work for people that need some gardening work doing, need flat pack furniture building, need shelving putting up, pictures hanging, those types of things. I like to do odd jobs around the house, so I thought I might as well make good use of that skill and monetize it. So Airtasker is a form of income for me, and I did a couple of jobs in March that contribute towards April's pay. So I've got £130 coming in this month from Airtasker, which is great. It's the best month I've had in a while. First month I've had a couple of jobs as well, so that's good there. Etsy is another one. Etsy is actually the platform I'm considering selling this spreadsheet through, actually. So that might be that if it decides that there's demand out there for this, then that might come into fruition soon. At the moment, Etsy's nothing. I'm not selling anything on there, but it is on there because I'm kind of trying to tell myself that I need to use that channel in the future. And then the big and most notable one that has changed this month and is a one-off entry on the spreadsheet is that I got paid a bonus from my company. So once a year, as I'm sure lots of people watching this video, I'm sure your companies do the same. If your company hits its financial targets and you reach your personal objectives that you're set at work, your personal KPIs, your company may pay you out a bonus. My company is one of those companies. So I got paid a bonus this month. I'm actually going to it kind of prompted me to do a separate video on bonuses and how best to use them and how best to get the most money out of them, because I'm sure it's really frustrating anyone that's watching that has been paid a bonus and then you see a load of it get taken out in tax. And that's exactly what I've experienced here in this situation. So my bonus was £1,000. So I've had £311 taken out of it in tax. I'm going to do a separate video on how to most tax efficiently make use of your bonus, how to utilize it in order to get the most from it. So watch out for a separate video coming on that. So I won't go into too much more detail on that today. I'll cover it in that video. But yeah, so I've been paid a bonus, which is great. So that was a one-off payment of £689. So that's the big number really that's coming in that is different. And then I had £164 left over from last month as well. So I always like to keep a leftover balance ticking over in my account. If it starts to build too high, I'll take some of it out and put it towards one of my other areas. But I always like to keep a buffer there just in case anything really unexpected comes up that I don't want to have to dip into my emergency fund for. So that's why I keep that balance in there. I had £164, so rolled that over into this month. So that's all the income. That equals £4,114.44, which, as mentioned at the start, is the same number that's in that monthly net total income up the top there as well. So that's everything coming in. Now we get on to the sad part and we watch it all go back out again. So the next stage we're going to move over to is this bills section. So I'll just highlight that for you in the middle there. So the bills are literally what they say on the tin. They are all of the core bills that we have for living in the house that we live in, sort of with the life setup that we have. These are all of our core bills. So we have our mortgage that comes out, our joint bills account, which is our mortgage and a couple of other bills that also go into there as well. Our water goes into there, our council tax goes into there. I think they're the three main ones that go into our joint bills account, which I have with myself and my wife. We both pay into it. That's our joint account, and that's where our money comes out of for our bills. So £845 going into there. I'm actually going to do another video at some point in the future as well, and I've recently published one along the similar lines about remortgaging for your house, because we're actually going through a remortgage process at the moment, and from the month of June our mortgage costs will go up, but we managed to bag a better lower interest rate on our mortgage deal, thankfully just before all the things that are going on in the world at the moment that made mortgage rates go back up. We managed to secure ourselves a really good low mortgage rate, and we were able to take some years off of our mortgage term. So our mortgage payment per month is going to go up slightly, but over the longevity of our mortgage it's going to save us a significant amount of money. So I'll do a separate video on how all that worked out and how we managed to do that, so because it might be useful information for you guys watching as well. So I'll do a separate video on that. But that's how much goes into our joint bills account. We then got our gas and electric there at £61.78, our Wi-Fi at £14.36. I should point both of those costs, gas and electric and Wi-Fi, that's 50% of the cost. I pay for those. My wife transfers me half of the money for those two things. So the costs you see there are 50% of our total costs. Then got my phone, my mobile phone, which is £35 a month. Our TV license, which we pay for our TV license annually, so we just save up the money throughout the year. Then the money's there to go when TV license is due for renewal. We have a £20 slush fund that we also separately I transfer into that bills account. That's for our house, for anything extra that we might want. We might want to buy for the house, decoration, things like that. We just have a little bonus pot that sits in our joint account for housing stuff. So I transfer in £20 a month, and so does my wife. And then we also have our road fees. We live on a road that is managed by a company, so they come in and sort of do the gardening in the communal areas and things like that, maintain certain bits. So that costs us £450 a year. Split that in half, and then my wife and I obviously take that cost and we pay for half of it each. So £20 a month is what we contribute each towards that. So that's all my bills, and then that comes to £1,004.14, as you can see at the bottom. This is the good bit where this spreadsheet really works out, is that I then put £1,004 £1.14 in there at the bottom, and I hit enter, and you'll see that that squares off that number. So the number goes from red to white, meaning we're on balance for how much money I need to put towards my bills. And then you can see up here the monthly bills tab has gone up to £1,004.14. That matches, and the left to allocate number has come down to £3,110.30p. So that's how this spreadsheet works. So now we've covered that bit, you'll know for the other areas what's going on this sheet. So as we fill every single one in, that left to allocate number will come down and down and down. Then I can scroll up to the top at the end. I can have a look at where we're at, and I can see whether I want to redistribute any other money anywhere else, etc., etc. So yeah, that's how the spreadsheet intuitively works as we go through. So moving over to subscriptions and payments, we've got some pretty standard ones in here. So Netflix and Amazon at the top there, those two costs. Sorry, I'll highlight that box over here as well, just so you know which one we're talking about, that one there. So you've got Netflix and Amazon, then got a direct debit that I pay monthly into a junior ISA that my niece has got, the monthly payment that goes in. I also subscribe to Runner on a yearly basis, so there's a £9, it's £90 for the year, I pay it annually, so £9 a month I put away just to stash away for that so that I can afford to pay it for next year. Runner is a running app for anyone that doesn't know. I like to try and keep fit, keep exercising, so that app really helps me. So it's an important part of my life, something I don't really want to compromise on, so I pay £9 a month and that contributes towards that. I have Apple in here because occasionally I pay for extra Apple storage, but nothing coming out for that this month. I still have a gift card that's sat on my Apple account that is paying for that at the moment, so nothing to worry about there for this month. That will run out soon, so that will come back in here soon, like $2.99 a month, but nothing there at the moment. And then I really like my sport, like football, so like following football. I'm a Liverpool fan, which I'm sure will get me some hate in the comments, so apologies in advance. But I subscribe to Discovery Plus, which has actually changed to HBO Max now, so that can be updated. But I subscribe to Discovery Plus to get access to like the Champions League football, FA Cup football, things like that. So that's that cost there. So all of my subscriptions for the month come to £66. So again, we can put that in there. As you can see, squares that off. The bills has gone up slightly because they all count as bills, and then the left to allocate has come down again. So you're starting to get the hang of how this spreadsheet works now. Moving on to food. So this is the next section. So weekly shops, first of all, we do our shopping every week, arrives on a Monday. So if we go through in the calendar and look, we can see that across April, there'll actually be 5 Monday shops that we'll need to have through the month. Because obviously we've still got this little bit of time. I'm filming now right at the end of March, so we've still got this little bit of time at the end of March where we've had to pay for a weekly shop this week. So that will be, we do £40 a week, £80 total for our shopping, £40 a week cheap between me and my wife. So by extension, you can see that's £40. There's 5 Mondays, £200. So that's my shopping bill for the month. I also put a little bit of money aside in case I need to buy lunch at work at any point when I go into work, into the office. So that's £40. And then we both carry a little bit of a food buffer, a food emergency, just in case we end up doing something with food, or we need food for that we hadn't planned for in the month. So or the shopping goes a little bit over because we need some extra little bit. So we just have a little buffer in there to allow for that. So that box can be added up to 260, which goes in there. And if I hit enter, you'll see that that squares that one off as well. So that one's that all sorted. Next is car and travel insurances. So you can see in the middle here all the car travel insurance related products that I've got going on. So we've got our cat insurance, for literally the insurance for our cat that we have. So that's it just gone up actually. It's gone up to £8.50 a month each for both of us. Premium went up slightly this year, but not shopping around, couldn't find a cheaper one. So we've stuck with the same company. So premium gone up slightly there. Our home insurance that we contribute towards monthly as well, that's actually due for renewal in a couple of months' time, so we've got most of the money stashed away for that in a savings account. We've just got the last little bit to do, and then we'll be able to pay for that house insurance annually, and then we'll start saving again for the next year. Fuel, so this is how much I literally need to drive around, do the things that I need to do every month. Driving to and from work, it's quite a long drive for me to get to work. It's about a 40 something mile, it might be 50 mile actually, round trip for me to get to and from work when I go, and I normally go in at least a couple of times a week, so quite a long journey there. Then we've got the tax on my car, which actually has also just gone up slightly from last. I think this is the first month of a slightly higher cost, so we've increased that from £16 to £17, so small increase. I've got an allocation for getting the train this month. I know I'm only going to need to do one train journey that I'm aware of on a weekend, so normally weekend return back to our train station here is very, very cheap, so I've put in £16 there, which should cover that. And then my car insurance. So anyone that watched the previous month's video knows that I've been saving for my car insurance monthly. I pay for it annually, saving for it monthly. I didn't quite have enough saved for the renewal for this year, so I had to take a little bit of last month's money to pay off that little bit of extra car insurance that I had outstanding. So I've upped now I know what the premium is for this year. I've upped my monthly contributions savings for that, so that I know that I've got enough to at least match the premium for last year. I always shop around for my car insurance, and I'd recommend you doing the same if you really want to make the most of saving money, because if you stay with the same car insurance provider, the likelihood is you'll get slapped with significant increases every single year. I have never totted it up. I'd love to know how much money I've saved by changing my car insurance every year. To be honest, the fact that you're sat here now, you're watching a budgeting video, probably tells me that you're similar minded and you're someone that also changes around insurances all the time to try and make sure premiums don't get out of hand. Car insurance is definitely the worst one, so make sure you give that some consideration if you're looking at taking some of this information for your own budget. So at the bottom of the insurances section, and insurances car travel section, I can put in there 217.50 because that's what we're spending, and that squares that one off. And then this one over here, really quick and simple one, where I've got a section called pets for stuff that we need for our cat. We had a couple of food bits that we bought last month, so we don't need food this month. We've got all our cat stuff really on a good rotation, so it never really ends up being that expensive every month. His most expensive one is the cat food here, which normally comes in at about £30 each when we need to buy it for the food that we get him, but it lasts him a really long time, so no cost on that for this month. That will probably be next month that one needs to come in. So, and then we put a couple of pounds in there for his treats there, you can see at the bottom. So a really simple one, £11.50, so I can put £11.50 into there. So that's really all of the mainline bills level of costs all covered off. Now we come into the probably two boxes. One, the least exciting one on this spreadsheet, which is paying off debt, and the one that's I think is the most exciting one, which is investing and saving. So covering debt first, really pleased to say that I'm in a good position with the debt that I had. For anyone that's watched a few of these videos knows that we've been carrying some debt for a while from when we got married last year. Obviously honeymoon, weddings are really expensive, but we actually did really, really well in managing to pay for most of it ourselves, but we had to carry a little bit of debt. We've been paying that down, and actually we've cleared all of that now, and we've also cleared everything that's needed for our holiday this year. We're going on holiday to Scotland in July, so we've cleared all of those debts, which is great. So the only debt that's now extended for me, you can see here, is £100 I've got, which is a payment that I make to my wife every single month, and that's for a sum of money that I borrowed from her to pay off my car loan. I bought a new car just in and around the time, sort of 2022, I think it was. So kind of Liz Truss, mad budget, things started going wrong, interest rates went through the roof just as I was going through the process of buying a car. So I ended up with quite a high interest rate on the loan that I had. I was paying that for a couple of years, 3 years I think it was. But then my wife and I, just when we sat down and went through all our finances, our bills, we decided that actually paying that off using some money that she had available to pay that off, we could clear that debt and then I could pay it back to her. So therefore it's not accruing interest. So therefore it's not hampering our finances, because otherwise the money that I'd be earning on investments and savings through Compound would be being wiped out by the interest I'd have on that debt. So instead I'm just paying it back to her, and yeah, it's cancelled out that interest rate that we were paying on the debt. So I've still got about £1,000 of that to go. So you can see they're just contributing, chipping away at it, £100 a month. I've only been chipping away in small amounts at the moment because I'm prioritising saving for an emergency fund. We'll come on to that in more detail in a minute, but I'm largely there with my emergency fund, so soon I'll be able to pick up the pace on paying down that loan. And then £60 I needed to pay off on a credit card, a Barclaycard credit card that I've got that just has last couple of bits of like leftover wedding. I think I bought some Pokemon stuff, which I'll come on to in a minute as well. Bought some Pokemon stuff last month. There was a couple of other bits on there that just needed clearing, so £60 there. And then you can see Klarna, I don't really use, to be honest, these days. I'm contemplating taking it off there actually, so it even stops being a temptation. I really don't tend to use Klarna now I've got on top of all my payments. And then I've got another credit card with Nationwide that's a monthly rolling one, so I have to pay it off every month. But it's offset with my payday. So sometimes if there's a good deal on something, so if I was planning on buying something in May, for example, but I saw a really good deal for it in April, it's not in this budget, so I can use that credit card to effectively buy it and then pay for it in May, and I've got it at the better price. So it's just, all I use that credit card for is to get better deals. That really is it. I don't use it to actually do any of my conventional spending on or anything like that. So that section there can have £160 put into it, so that squares that off, and that's all my debt payments sorted for this month. So a nice low month for debts. On the flip side, we've then got my investments and savings, so money that I'm investing into my future, building an emergency fund, kind of growing my wealth for the future. My ultimate goal, as I mentioned on a few of my other videos, is early retirement, and I'll cover that in a lot more detail in my savings and investments video that follows on from this video. So check that out if you're keen to learn more about my journey to early retirement and things like that. But for the purpose of this video, there's a few areas that I'm putting money towards. So firstly, I have a trading 212 stocks and shares ISA that I use. I have been putting £150 a month into that, but this month I've jumped that up to £350. The money that I'm not now spending over in the debt payment section, because that's come down quite considerably, I've, rather than keep it in there and pay down the other debt at the top, I'm waiting for my emergency fund to finish before I do that. So instead, I've just put a couple of £100 into my ISA. Stocks and shares is a turbulent ride at the moment for anyone that has investments. All the things going on in the world, oil prices, all these crazy things, it's making stocks and shares yo-yo all over the place. So yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted, but I'm sure anyone that's watching that's also invested knows and will have spent lots of time watching videos that tell you that these are the times that make or break you with investing, to really grin and bear it, stick through it, keep contributing. You know, there's an argument to say that stocks and shares are on sale at the moment, and now's a good time to buy in because you give yourself better opportunity for future growth. That's just an argument, not financial advice. That's just kind of my take. So I'm contributing a bit more money towards my stocks and shares ISA this month. I also have, and this is replaced for anyone that's watched these videos before, I used to have a line here called Chip, which was an app that I use, which is an automated saver that used to take off little chunks of my money throughout the month based on my spending habits. Unfortunately, I found that they downgraded the platform quite a lot in terms of the goals and automatic save functionality, and I wasn't really enjoying using it anymore. So I've moved away from that because it became more like a generic banking app. So instead, I know that it used to take about £100 of my money every single month, between £100 and £150 of my money. So instead, I've just allocated an area called pots, which relates to my pot savings goals down the bottom here, this tab here, and I've just put some money into that, and then I'll very quickly change tabs for you. I won't spend too long on here, but this pots tab has all of these different pots that I'm saving money for, that I want to have an ongoing balance for, so that at any point I can spend some money to go to the dentist, or spend some money to fix the brakes on my car, those types of things, saving for Christmas, going away travel, spending money, all those sorts of things. So I put £140 a month in there, and then split that across a few of the different pots in there. And then the big one in here is my emergency fund. So I'm looking to, or have been building over the last few months, a really decent sized emergency fund, looking to get somewhere between 4 and 6 months of my monthly core expenditure, which I'll come back to that point in a minute. So I've been looking to get somewhere between £7,000 and £7,500. So I've been contributing really heavily to this every month. So £500 has gone in again this month. That has now brought me up to £7,000. I'm going to do one more month of contributing to my emergency fund, and then I'll be on £7,500 and happy to put the brakes on that area of saving at that point, because that will give me a really nice buffer. If I go back up to the top, my bills come to £1,600 this month. So really, that's the number that I'm timesing by 4 to 6 to kind of get to that number that I want to have in my account to cover those costs if I were to lose my job or anything like that. That's what that is there to cover. So yeah, really pleased with where my emergency fund is. I'll cover that in more detail in that savings and investments video. And then last line on here, I mentioned it earlier in the video, but yes, for anyone that is new here and doesn't know, I'm a bit of an avid Pokemon collector. So every month I tend to put money into pieces, firstly, that I really like because it's a hobby and it's a collection, but also pieces that I think I'll really appreciate over time. Pokemon has seen a massive boom over the last 5 years or so in terms of its popularity. So I'm always on the lookout for things that, firstly, I can't stress that enough, firstly, I enjoy. But secondly, if they're able to appreciate in time as well, that's a bonus. So sometimes I siphon off some money. There's nothing that I'm expecting this month to have to buy or want to pay for, so there's 0 in there. And then I can put 990 in there because that is the total for that column. And then lastly, very quick one on this tab. You can see here I've got a personal allowance / miscellaneous spending tab. This is the tab that I use to track all of the money that I want to spend on the things that I want to do for the month. So you can see already I've got some numbers that are already actually in this spreadsheet down the side here. These are amounts of money that I know I'm going to need to spend on certain things this month. I've taken the labels out of them. Some of them are a little bit personal, so I've just taken some the labels out, but there's already some things in there which comes to £328. Normally I put £450 a month into this section, into the budget tab, but I'm actually going to put 500 in there this month, so I'll put that in there now, just because my finances are in a strong place at the moment, so I think I can afford to be a little bit more casual with the amount of money. It's only £50, but the amount of money that I'm spending each month. Plus, it's really important with all of this finance system building that you don't just get good at spending money, you also get good at, you don't also get good at saving money, you get good at spending it, because otherwise, if I don't practice spending money as well as saving, when it comes to all the money that I've saved up, which you'll see my plan on the savings and investments video, if you watch that, I'll have nowhere to, or no kind of practice in spending that money sensibly or efficiently, and I'll likely end up just keep saving more and more when actually I should be spending it. So I'm keen to exercise that kind of skill of spending money sensibly and rationally while still enjoying things today. So I've put £500 allocated to me in that one there. So that is all of the tabs on this spreadsheet. They're all now filled in. So when I scroll back up to the top, it will lay out all of my finances for me, and it will show me exactly where my money's going, what's contributing to where, totals, and ultimately how much I've got left over to allocate. There's one thing I'm going to do just before we scroll up. I'm actually going to put another line in here that says bonus, and I'm going to put that 689, wasn't it? £689 in there for my bonus, because I want that to be taken out. I don't actually have I have a couple of ideas of how I want to spend that, but I want to film the video about how to best utilize bonuses first before I do that. So for the purpose of this, I'm putting it in there just because it cancels it out and it takes it out of the left to allocate number. But that money is still for me. I'll just pop it into one of my savings accounts, just sat separately, that I know that money's there, so that then I can go through this video and show you where I might be looking to spend that or save that. So I'll put that in there because that squares that off. And sorry, I need to adjust that at the bottom there as well. So it says 17679. So everything all balances out. So it will show on my pie chart when I show you at the end an over indexing in that investments and savings. So it's just important to bear that in mind. But because I've got plans for that money, I think that's the best place for it for now, so I can show you where everything else is. So if I scroll back up to the top, you can see that monthly net total income I've got there, 4,114. That's what we started with. Then there is £1,600 of bills in that section there. We've got £160 worth of debt payments. Monthly savings and investments, that 1,679. That's that big number that I was talking about. So hopefully that maths is nice and easy for me. That tells me there was 990 that was in that section before we added the bonus number in. So that number obviously is a bit higher than actually what it needs to be, but for obvious reasons. And then that monthly personal allowance of 500. And that leaves me £162 and 30p left to allocate. So that's pretty much bang on where I want to be. I try and keep £150 to £200 in as a buffer, and I think I carried over £164. So we've pretty much allocated every single penny this month that we had coming in, which is great. That's kind of spot on. I'm comfortable with where all that money is. So that is the monthly budget. That is it all pulled together there in that instance. If I go back to the budget overview tab, you can just see, if I scroll down here, all those same numbers at the top here all pull through exactly the same. It now splits out my pie chart. So I've got, and it is a bit of a skewed month this month because the income was so high. So 40% of my money is going on fixed costs, which are the bills, which is this section here. Just 4% going on the debt. As I said, it was great to be in control of that debt number. 40% going on savings and investments, with the caveat that there is £689 in there for my bonus that I need to work through the system. And then we've got 12% up here for my monthly personal allowance. And then there's 4% that's left over that I still haven't allocated. And then the debt tracker, we can update. We saw that I was paying off £100 back to my wife. That was the number coming off the debt that I had. So that can drop to 1214 there. And the debt that I've paid can go up to 4676. So we put that in there like that. And that's the debt tracker now updated. So you can see I've got just 20% of that total debt that I had left to pay off, which is great. And then my emergency fund pension investment stay the same, and the net worth has improved ever so slightly just because I've updated some of those numbers. So yeah, that is how I budget for the month. The only other thing just to quickly show you, just on that pots and savings tab, you can see I bought £140 through as mentioned. I've put £60 in here for my health this month. I need to go to the dentist soon, so need to start stashing up some money to pay for that. I've got £40, an extra £40 that I've put in saving towards Christmas, and you can see I've got a goal at the bottom there for that one. And then I also put another £40 as well into Laura's birthday, my wife's birthday, that I'm saving up for as well. So that's where all that money went. So that's that £140 that came through all allocated. But other than that, that really is it. That's my budget spreadsheet, and yeah, how I split my money across the month. So there you have it. That is how I budget my monthly salary for the month of April. And apologies, that was a bit of a long one. There was a few extra bits in there that I wanted to cover this month and mention about upcoming videos. So hopefully you found that really useful. Hopefully there was some really useful information in there that you can also take for you for your budgeting process. Please don't compare your situation to my situation. Like, everyone's situation is different, so I don't want you to look at this spreadsheet and think, oh, I'm a long way behind, or oh, this person I'm watching a video for is also a long way behind. Everybody's situation is different. This video really is to help showcase how you can budget effectively and how I do it with my money, so that you know when you're hearing it from me, you know exactly how I'm operating this in real life. So yeah, hopefully it was really useful and you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please do make sure you give it a like, give the channel a subscribe if you want to see more of those videos that I mentioned that I've got coming up, and do drop down comments below if you like this, enjoying this video, this format, you want to see anything else added to it, you want to know anything about the spreadsheet, or if you're interested in buying the spreadsheet as well. So yeah, do drop a comment down below for that. But other than that, all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.